So today we've come down to the steel plant here in Talbot because there's a major new capital investment project about to start. And when I say about to start, lots of the work has been going on for months, if not years, in preparation for this activity. But in the next week and 2 weeks, we're going to start seeing the installation of the North Charger crane in the steel plant. This is one of the biggest cranes on the site. In fact, it's one of the biggest cranes in the whole of the UK, carrying about 500 tons of ladle and liquid iron into the steel plant. So you can start to see behind us here some of the components of the crane, and be delighted to be welcomed today by Mark Bowman, who's project manager of this project. Mark, try and explain to us a little bit exactly what we can see behind us here.
Well, you can see the two of the three main girders. The third one's just over here, that will go to make up the main support section of the crane.
Yeah, because people, when we say crane, people might think of one of those tall things that shoots up into the sky that they see around building projects. But this is a girder crane. It's difficult to explain on camera. Can you try and explain to people what it does and how it works?
Okay, so it actually sits, in this case, it'll be 30 meters high on rails within the building. So it's a gantry crane that lifts, is in position, travels along the bay, and lifts items from within the bay. So it's an internal crane. It's a 4-girder crane, which means that you've got two main girders. This is one of them. You've got then two auxiliary girders on the far structure then, and they then support a main and an auxiliary trolley that lift the items.
Yeah, because this crane does two activities, doesn't it? It picks up that ladle full of iron, carries it down the bay, but then it has to tip it as well. That's where the auxiliary piece comes in?
Yes, so it will lift vertically into and out of the desulf at the north end of the steel plant. It'll then travel the ladle of iron down towards the vessels. It charges into the vessels then, and at this stage, the auxiliary will attach, and it will actually pick up the back of the ladle to charge it into the vessel.
Yeah, now we were saying earlier, this is an essential replacement capital expenditure, because you were saying, tell us how old the current crane is and what's going to be different or what's going to be upgraded as part of this replacement.
Okay, so the original crane was actually installed as they built the fabric of the first steel plant. So it actually dates back to 1969, which is when that plant was built. So a very long service on the original crane. The new crane will replace its duties, as we said, like for like, but with a number of new additions or improvements. So the crane itself has the latest technology in terms of drives and control. We've made improvements to the cab, the experience for the driver, and we've also, it includes the latest safety systems to ensure a high level of availability and repeatability in the process and the maintenance.
Yeah, and I think we spoke some time ago about the virtual reality training of the crane drivers, and that sort of technology is, proper 21st century stuff, and we'll follow that up as we follow the project through over the coming weeks and months. But here we are at the beginning for us in terms of sharing this with the wider world of the project, and we see these three huge pieces of equipment here, and I don't know how much they weigh. But in the coming days and months, we're nowhere near the steel plant, really. What happens in the next, say, week, Mark? Okay,
so in the next week, there's simultaneous activities at the steel plant and here. So we're going to put a hole in the roof of the BOS Plant building. We're then going to drive these items from this situation. We're going to drive them via SPMT. So that's a bed platform, radio controlled. That enables us to lift these items up, transport them out and around to a holding area at the steel plant. We'll then drive them into the steel plant at the right time. We'll take a plant shutdown to then lift them up through from inside the building and position them one at a time.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal piece of work, and I remember those low loaders when I think they're doing the downcomer for the blast furnace, and similar piece of work, but you've got three pieces of kit. Can you give us some idea of timings? Because you've got to put this crane in while the other one is still operating, but then once it's in, you've got to get the old one out as well, Mark.
That's correct, yeah. So once the crane has been installed, commissioned, the correct level of training's been carried out, and we're confident that we can hand over the crane. We then move to sort of phase 2, I suppose, where we do a similar operation at the south end of the plant. We will take a section of roof out again, situate a large dismantling crane that will then take the old crane down piecemeal.
So as you can see, it's an unbelievably huge piece of work going on here. One of the largest cranes in the UK being replaced in the steel plant, and it's going to go in pretty quickly, and we're going to follow that journey through. You know, without being close up to it, it's difficult to describe just how big these pieces of equipment are, just how complex they are. You know, each of these pieces has within it, you know, transformers, electrical equipment, but rest assured, you know, we'll be following this project all the way through and giving you the best insights of some major engineering project, but has to be planned down to the millimetre. Mark, brilliant to be here today. Thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully see you in a few days.
Okay, pleasure, thanks.